Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome along to the Royal Link Up podcast. I'm your host, the amazing Sniper Beef. We're joined by three esteemed guests and a new face who hasn't been on the podcast for a long time. We've got Mass and
Yeah,
Evra, we've got Devastate, and we've got Ace. Um, Ace, how are you today?
I'm really good. Thank you. It is so good to be back. I'm getting excited for the link. It's ages away.
It's not ages away though, is it? It's like, Mass,
Well,
how many days away are we?
We're 130 days till the 27th annual link up.
130
about the right time
days.
to
Like that will come around sooner than you can think. Like last year when I did the 100 day countdown on TikTok, I thought, yeah, this will be ages, but honestly, it flew by. So yeah, the link up will be here a lot sooner than you think. July the 6th, the Sunday is day one of gaming, but July the 5th is the opening ceremony. So yes, we'll be very very excited. Um, Right, so let's go through what we're going to talk through today. So we're going to talk through Fable, Silent Hill, Sony, bit of Tony Hawk's, new game from Rare, Borderlands 4, Dune Awakening, Windward Horizons, and Mass is going to round us off with a game that we're potentially going to be playing at the link up. But I will refrain from giving out that before the end of the episode. Um, Devastate. Let's kick off with Fable being delayed until 2026. Why and what are the Fable loyalists saying?
Yeah, so this came out of the Xbox podcast in the last couple of days. Essentially, that it was due to arrive towards the end of this year, but Microsoft have essentially said that, well, the Xbox Game Studios chief, Craig Duncan, has essentially said they're going to move it back to 2026. But they haven't really given much indication. The game was announced at the Xbox Summer Showcase last year, and it looked very, very pretty, as all Fable games do. But we've literally seen nothing since then, and they haven't given a reason for the delay. Now, my only gut feeling is that there is a very big title coming out at the end of this year.
Literally going to say that.
Which I think is going to put a lot of other titles and game publishers, like, they will be planning.
On the back foot.
Yeah, so you either got to go really early or almost delay. And I think that a lot of these, I think you'll have to go early. And if they go, well, the game's not going to be ready for September, then almost there's no point. Now, ultimately, Fable is a family-esque title. It's enjoyed by all ages. GTA 6 is a very much an adult-themed content game. So it may hold some weight, but I'm not necessarily 100% convinced. But the game looks great. But yes, that is sad news for fans of the genre.
Fable's always been like one of those Xbox titles where they wrap it up with a console, don't they? You know what I mean? Like historically, it's always been, it's a bit like Halo in that respect. It's always been like a console and Fable, with it. So it's a big risk missing Christmas if they're gonna.
Yeah, but there's no scenario where if you're a game developer or publisher, you're going to go, I know, let's launch a game in Q4 of 2025 when GTA 6 is going to be on the horizon. Like, you either launch the game now or you don't bother and you wait till maybe this time next year, March, April next year, when the GTA 6 hype train has died down, because there's not going to be enough power or electricity in the world to run GTA 6 plus than any other games that are going to be launching.
I mean, I know everyone's been waiting for GTA 6, but like, is there any possibility that it isn't going to be as good as we're all expecting it to be?
I mean,
I
I think on the console, I think from our perspective, on the console, it's not going to look as good as we would want it to, because obviously they're working on legacy hardware compared to what me and Rage are running on our PCs, for example. So I think in terms of prettiness, I don't think it's going to be up to what we would want it to be. But obviously, when it launches on PC, let's say in a year's time, then it might look good. But I can't see they spent 10 years developing a game.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
why I
like why
was.
we're waiting for it. We're so excited though.
But that's why I was alluding, I think, before when I sort of said this is the equivalent of Star Wars Episode 1. This is probably the most
Yeah.
anticipated game of all time. And like
Yeah.
Episode 1, can it actually live up to expectations? I don't know, because Episode 1,
I don't know.
for a lot of people, didn't. But, you know.
Yeah. Oh, the one difference I would say is Episode 1 didn't cost close to $2 billion to
No,
make.
it was 100 million, I think, at the time, back in 99.
Are they shutting down the GTA 5 servers? Or are they going to keep that running?
surely not.
No. The reason
Surely
being
not.
is because, well, certainly not for a long time because of the split release dates. So I think we spoke about, was it 26th, 28th of October? We think is probably the release date. Will be Xbox and PlayStation, and PC will come in 2026. So I think that will probably run for 12 months. I also think for the GTA Online experience, there might be some sort of, are you able to port your character over? Because a lot of people have invested
A lot of money.
lots of money, lots of years into a character, and then suddenly go, well, you've only got 12 months left with that character, and like I think that they might work on something of like porting that character over.
They're gonna want to try and push people to the new game, right? Otherwise, people will just end up playing GTA 5, right? If you've invested so much time in it.
Yeah, I agree, and that's
good one.
it's got to be so. That's why I just think that it's got to be so phenomenally good, and that Pete. I mean, I think is it 5 or 6 times the size, like the city size, of GTA 5. I mean, and they reckon almost every single thing is interactive. Almost every person is interactive.
We should be getting a trailer, the second sort of trailer sometime soon, shouldn't we?
A
bit of gameplay
it is
or
rumoured to
something.
come next month.
Yeah.
Towards the end of next month, we should have. It has been called dubbed Trailer 2.
Oh wow, really ingenious name there and title.
Yeah.
But no, it's interesting how a lot of our topics that we chat about eventually get back onto GTA 6 on this podcast. I think a lot of our topics are going to be focused around GTA 6 until we start hearing some actual news, which is definitively worthy or factually correct around it. But let's move on. Ace, talk to me about this Silent Hill potential remake, because I'm not a Silent Hill fan. You obviously are, and know a bit more about it than I do.
Yeah, so big sort of survival horror, Resident Evil, Silent Hill fan. So I think it was last week, Kojima teased. He does this quite a bit on his TikTok. He loves to like highlight past successes, stories, his work. So no one really thought much of it when he put up a picture of PT. So the PT demo was a demo that went out on PlayStation 4. It must have been about 6 or 7 years ago now, maybe even a little bit longer than that. And just before he left Konami, and he left Konami, and they took the demo down, and the game never got made. It was meant to be like a new Silent Hill game with the code name of PT. Anyway, he put that up this week, and then today, the development team that remade the Silent Hill 2 game have confirmed that they're making a new game for Konami, but they haven't listed what that game is. Now, within the community, we're thinking, why has Kojima hinted at PT? And we've had an announcement where they're making a new game. The only game they've made for Konami, by the way, is the Silent Hill 2 remake. So if they use the same engine, or like they do with like Resi or something, then it's pretty hot news, because that also means potentially that Kojima's coming back to Silent Hill, which would be pretty massive in the community. It could just be coincidence. There's like a percentage of the community that are like ignoring it, and then there's quite a percentage of the community that's quite excited about the potential. But yeah, that would be pretty phenomenal if the PT, because the PT demo is a legendary kind of game that never got made. If it gets made, I mean, it'll be huge, massive.
But for those who are, who say in favour, you're essentially putting one and one together and making four, and the four is going to be like Kingdom Come as it would be, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. Do you know what though? It was a weird one to remake Silent Hill 2 anyway. You know, they didn't even bother with Silent Hill 1, and it could be Silent Hill 3 that they're doing, because we've got the new Metal Gear stuff coming out, which is pretty cool. That looks. We seem to get a lot of games at the moment that are like going back, because I know like Tempest Rising. I had a quick look at that. I'm excited for that as well, but it's like that 90s game. So now it's not all about like graphics. It's just about like nostalgia within games. So we're not after like a Silent Hill game that's got the most amazing graphics or like new gameplay, because the main community want to just play the old games, but with like maybe just updated graphics. So we have now all of these games because they're making a Days Gone. They're remastering that as well. It's just the same game, so we end up with lots of these old games that still look like old but with new graphics. So there's a massive sort of genre at the moment of these remade games that look like 90s games, play like 90s games, just not massive graphics. But so it's all pretty exciting, really. If I had any time to play them, of course.
Yeah,
We've got loads of time. We're adults. We've got all the time in the world, haven't we?
Yeah, if Evie wasn't just started walking and is trying to,
Yeah, I mean, children. I mean, just
destroy my
lock the
entire
door. Lock the door. They can't come in. It's all good. But yeah, no, it sounds potentially, possibly exciting as to when what happens there for sure.
yeah, it's pretty.
Let's move on. I was a big fan of this in my university days. Tony Hawk's, particularly, well, this was Tony Hawk's Underground back in the day. What an unbelievable game that was. I spent most of my university time playing Tony Hawk's Underground. But there's on the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater website, there's a March the 4th countdown timer on for an announcement, which sounds pretty big and will be interesting. But yeah, just a quick one on that. Yeah, I'll be interested to see what that's going to be for sure. Because
I absolutely rinsed Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 on, I think it was PlayStation and then PlayStation 2, I want to say.
Yeah, I think they're both originally on PlayStation. But...
Oh, they're both PlayStation. I know certainly the first one was. Yeah, absolutely loved those games. You don't get games like that anymore. Like even games like I remember what was it? Was it Cool Borders or something like that? Which was the snowboarding game. Like games like that were so simple. Like, and you played it like you ultimately played it a couple of times, and you played it, got harder and harder and harder. But games that like that don't really seem to exist anymore.
But do you remember, like, with the original Tony Hawk's games, when someone told you, oh, here's the cheats for it, and you go like up, down, left, right, square, whatever the cheat is, and you're like, oh my god, like an infinite manual, and you're like, you can just like go from manualing down a rail into whatever it is over there, and you're like, okay, now I just need to be able to do that without the cheats on.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, incredible game.
That's what we spent hours doing. It was the same with Cool Borders. Like Tony Hawk was about how like combining tricks, wasn't it? It was about like you had to jump from rail, then you had to like ollie it to another one, or like flip it, keep it going on the back wheels to the next jump, and then it was like trying to get the maximum combination of moves. And it was the same with Cool Borders, because I remember like trying to like. You'd start you start the game, you start the downhill, and then if you got the first jump wrong, you'd restart.
Yeah.
And you just restart like 100 times, like until you got that. And then it'd be the next bit, like restart, like 2,000 times. You must have just restarted the level. It was like that. It was quality.
You definitely don't get games like that anymore, do you? Like definitely nothing like that at all.
It's because they can't hold youngsters' attention.
No,
they're just not enough. There's not enough going on to hold. Their attention. They all go to mobile, right? Because I think you can play Tony Hawk's on mobile.
Probably.
Quite possibly, yeah.
But then, like, is there any like single player games now where people will do similar to that, where like, right, you play it, all right, you can't get past it, you just keep going, and keep going. Like the one that just rings bells to me is trying to do Halo 2 on Legendary, the campaign. You like the amount of hours I put into Halo 2 Legendary campaign, and eventually you spend like 14 hours. Finally, I've done it. And you're just trying to get around the same corner like a million times, and eventually you did it. But like, there's no really like, what was Indiana Jones like that? Devastate. Was it anything like that in there?
Indiana Jones, I actually thought was an absolutely fantastic game, but not really. There's so much story in there and so many side quests. Like there's no what I'll call repetitiveness about trying to go and do them again and again and again.
Yeah.
I think if I went and back and played the game, I did more of the main storyline. But you could go, I reckon you've probably got an extra 150% if you went and did all the side quests in the game. But it's not that sort of game really. It feels like they're generally either in more FPS style games, or certainly in sports games. So if you were going to buy like the Olympics game, like you would do the same thing, or if you were doing any form of single player sports titles, I think that's where you would probably find that mindset basically to get really, really good. But the majority of games now are all just targeted around multiplayer.
That's the game that we need to be getting for the link up. Just PGA Tour 2K25. I've seen some videos of that this week. Oh my god, that looks so good.
I've played it.
80 quid though. 80 quid.
Yeah, but by the time the link up comes around, it won't be that. We'll be able to get it for cheaper. But like at the end of the day, it won't be on Xbox Games Pass, will it?
No.
I
doubt it. So, but it looks so good. Like so good.
I have played it. It's better, but for 2 years worth of development, I don't think it's 2 years better. The mechanic
looks a lot better.
You've only seen like the high quality renders and the video that are actually playing it. It didn't. I mean, I played the demo. You only got like two or three holes to play. Everything was very reminiscent of the standard 2K create a character that we had from 2K23. But I think it was fine. If that game came out and it was 20 quid, I'm like, yeah, fine, get it straight off. There's absolutely no chance I'm paying full price for that game, let alone the deluxe edition. I think it goes up to like 120 quid.
Yeah, but you get to bend over with that edition. It's fantastic.
You get to refund it after you've bent over.
Yeah, they get to pull it back out again. Oh dear. Right, moving on. Devastate. Talk to me about what's happened with Sony in Japan.
Yeah, so sort of hot off the press, they just had their earnings call, and they are now the second largest company in Japan by market cap. They have passed $153 billion. So
that comes off the back of the news we had in a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, where PS5 sales had basically reached, I think it was 75 odd million.
Yep.
And at the same sort of period of time frame in terms of where it is with the PS4, it was ahead of where the PS4 was for sales. So kind of aligns with that. Who's the number one, out of curiosity?
Ooh, that's a bit of a nice quiz question there. So they overtook Mitsubishi. And I couldn't believe Mitsubishi was number two. Was number two. I know they're massive, but because of like they're involved in lots of other construction things. But I never would have said that they're number two. But yes,
no idea who's number one. Any idea?
This is the biggest market cap in
Japanese company.
Japan.
Yeah. Most valuable Japanese
company. Nintendo. I mean, I'm going to throw names out. Nintendo, Toshiba, Was it?
So Nintendo is 10th, worth $89 billion. Then no one else in the gaming industry.
Yeah, I think it's a car brand. I'm thinking it's a car brand.
It is a car brand. Think about the Japanese car brand that you see the most in the UK.
Suzuki.
No, much more than that.
Honda.
No, much more popular than those.
Nissan.
It's that funny family car that they put. Did they?
No. It's Toyota.
Toyota.
So yes, Toyota is valued 80 billion more than Sony. But you got to bear in mind that these manufacturing companies, they've got their fingers in all sorts of like pies and train manufacturing and other forms of ownership and revenue generation. But
let's not talk about fingers in pies on this podcast. We don't need to go down that route anymore.
But yeah, it's essentially it is credited to the PlayStation 5 primarily, and it is the most profitable line that they have ever made. So it is the most profitable generation that Sony have ever produced, the PlayStation 5.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
they're doing well.
Good for them.
Doing well at the moment. Doing well. Moving on, Mass. Let me come to you. The Windward Horizon. Talk me about that. So Windward. Just before we crack on, Windward was a game that we played. I want to say six years ago, something like that. The original Windward.
About 10 years ago.
10. Oh my days.
Didn't you play it last year for like an hour?
Yeah, it was the new one, wasn't it? Did we play the new one last year?
Definitely played a Windward last year.
Yeah, we definitely played a Windward game last year. But yeah, the original Windward game, Dustle, one of the other gamers in the Raw Link Up, he put a lot of hours into the original Windward game. A lot of hours. And I quite like the Windward game that we played last year. I didn't think it was anything incredible, but I thought it was a pretty good game. But talk to me, what's been happening with Windward Horizons, Mass?
Yeah, so as part of Steam's Next Fest, Tasha and Entertainment have actually dropped us another Windward Horizon demo. As Beef had already said, they had done it already twice, I think, last year. And this one, again, they dropped on Monday. It's a week long. So yeah, the sequel, as Beef had said, to Windward. It hasn't got an official release date yet, but it is down for this year. But it felt very similar to the previous game when we played it back in July. I haven't downloaded this new demo yet, so I don't know what the changes are against what we played in July. But a high level, as it says, you trade, you quest, or you fight, or you could simply sail around sort of aimlessly in this sort of role-playing game. So yeah, it looks. It felt and played very, very similar to the original game last time.
But I remember it looked a lot nicer than the original, like in terms of like graphical quality. I remember the demo that we played last year was like really nice to look at, wasn't it?
It did look nice. Yep, agreed. The water looked fantastic in particular. So and a good soundtrack as well. So
yes, the soundtrack. Yeah, remember that. All right, moving on. Devastate. Talk to me about this new game from Rare, which is a little bit like Sea of Thieves, called Jump Ship, the 4-player co-op game.
Yeah, so I played Sea of Thieves to absolute death during the COVID years. Me and Vedic, like every day, we're playing hours of the game. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. Ace, we play games as well. I really like the game, and I just wish they'd done a proper way that we could have got everyone in the link up involved in it. It just became a nightmare when you had like a 4 trying to find another 4, and you wanted to be on like a big. You didn't want to be in the. You want to be on adventure mode rather than the sort of PvP version. But yeah, so Rare have announced a game called Jump Ship, which takes some of the elements from Sea of Thieves. So it is a PvE game, but it is a 4-player co-op where essentially you are on a ship and you've got a mission point will pop up and you've got to get there and things will attack you, and you've got to have one person that will go and fix the ship, one person to pilot it, one person manning the guns. Then you might land on a planet and you've got to go and do things on that planet as a team. And then it looks really quite nice. It's quite an attractive game. And yeah, I thought I'd just make a note of that, because I say if got a lot of time for Rare from what they did with Sea of Thieves, so I will 100% like to try it. It's quite sandboxy, but it's not full on open world.
What was the game where we played where you're on a ship but it's almost flying?
Guns
And
of
you have-
Icarus.
Yeah.
Guns of Icarus, that was it. Does it
That's
look
quality.
looking and sound a little bit like that?
No, it's proper spaceships. So
Right.
it can look a bit like a Halo or Star Wars, like you're flying through space. So it's all fully sci-fi. And yes, it's you
If
essentially
it's Sea of Thieves in space, that's quality.
Yeah.
I'm all over that.
yeah.
That's
Now I
gonna
think
be
the
amazing.
only thing is that there's no PvP, which I think is a bit of a shame, because what I'm reading is it feels very Sea of Thieves and a bit of sort of Left 4 Dead style for 4-man co-op. But obviously, if there's no PvP, that's a bit of a shame. But if it's you can get on a group of 4 with you and then go and complete missions and stuff, I think that'd be really quite cool to play.
To be fair, like PvP in Sea of Thieves wasn't really particularly the focus anyway, was it? Like, because I think you only had 4 ships on every map, so
Yeah,
the
PvP
chances
on,
of running in,
yeah, PvP on
the
Sea of
chances
Thieves
of
wasn't
running
that
into
fun.
another ship were really slim anyway.
Yeah, well, it depends. So if you, I mean, on the first version of Sea of Thieves, correct? As the game sort of evolved, when you could become a Reaper, and the whole purpose of Reaper was you got rewarded for going and stealing treasure from from other people who were playing sort of adventure mode. So that there ended up becoming quite a semi-toxic but not toxic environment that was created. So I used to watch YouTubers who would go and you go and find tuck positions on a ship, wait for them to complete all of their wait to get all the way to the very end, and you get the the Athena chest, and then you'd have smuggled on a gunpowder barrel, and you basically light it, go and grab their treasure and jump off. So someone who could have been playing the game for 3, 4, 5 hours, you just go and steal their treasure right at the very end of it. But it's part of its life.
Type of game, though, right? Where it's like you've worked for hours and hours and hours to gain all this treasure, and then some it would come along and just knife you in the face and steal all your treasures. Like, I've just spent my entire day collecting that.
Yeah,
It was that was the mechanic of the whole game.
I think that it could have got huge. I think the game had so much potential to become bigger if they'd have really sort of invested in the capacity of having a bigger map, I think, and then having more ships on a map, and almost having if you don't want to do PvP, almost having I'm happy with PvP and PvE, I'm happy with all of it, or if I only want to do PvE, or put that in almost a beginner's style section, just so that if you don't want to do it, you're not going to have your game experience ruined.
Yes, yeah, it's not going to be the end of the world, is it?
Yeah, but no, this jump ship does look good.
When's it out?
I did have a date that I can't find it. Bear with.
You know what? Those games are difficult to where do you stop? Because then it just becomes open world, doesn't it? So they probably limit that kind of stuff they probably have the capacity to integrate that kind of stuff, but they probably choose not to, because otherwise it just then becomes like you categorize it in with loads of other open world type games, don't you, where you can do all these things. You have to then, because there's no bases really, is there? Like,
No.
there's no sort of defense, there's none of that kind of stuff. If you do it, it just becomes like minus dinosaurs. It's just arc, isn't it? Like, like.
Well, wait till Arc 2 comes out, then we'll all be fine, won't we?
Did you see that? Actually, that's a good lead in. Just quickly, they they put out the release date for Arc 2 as the 31st of February, and there isn't even a 31st of February. Apparently, on their X, they put a new release update or whatever it was, and it was like coming February 31st, and everyone was like, "We've been waiting for this so long that they've created their own."
I love that.
Day.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I know.
That's incredible.
Oh
dear.
No, we've got nothing on the release date. Early access in 2025.
Okay.
So I would expect to know that would probably be a summer release.
Yep. All right, moving on. Couple of last ones to touch on. Borderlands 4 release date. We've got 24th of September.
23rd of September.
23rd of September.
Which I think is the closest you can release a game to GTA without being. I think that's like almost the cut-off point to release a game before GTA 6.
I mean, I still wouldn't bother. But yeah, we've got a date for that. And then finally, last segment of the podcast that we've been doing recently, a game that we're potentially going to be playing at the Link Up, which Mass is going to cover. Talk to us about the game, Mass. What's it called? What is it about?
We're going to do Dune Awakening first, though.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, completely forgot. Dune Awakening. Talk to me about that first.
So yeah, Funcom have now given us a release date on Dune Awakening, available via Steam. So it's the 25th of May. The 20th of May. Forgive me. At the moment, although you can, there's no demo to play. They are giving you the ability to download the character creator and the benchmark mode, so you can test your frame rate and see how well it sort of renders, etc. That alone, I believe, is about a 16 gig download.
Oh, shut the front door.
But once the
16 gig download to test your frame rate and get your character up. What's the world coming to?
But once the game is deployed, so it's going on at $49.99, which is pretty reasonable, I think.
Yeah.
So once the game actually is deployed and you can play it as of the 20th of May, it's essentially a survival MMO at heart, and you're going to get like this very short intro mission that's going to give you sort of like an introduction essentially to the game. Then you're going to get deployed into this PvE zone where you can do things like farming, or you can build a permanent base, and then from there you're going to want to build a flying machine, or a flying vehicle should I say, and using that to travel to cities where you can trade and you can sell stuff to market. It's a very high focus sort of crafting game. Also in these cities you'll be able to join one of two factions at the moment. That's part of the release. There's potentially going to be a third one at a later stage. You'll also be able to acquire quests as well in these cities. In addition to that, there's going to be PvP zones. These PvP zones will be able to hold or support up to 500 players in any one in each individual zone. Those zones as well will get wiped each week. So when you go back, if it had a particular dungeon there, that may not be accessible the following week. There'll be other points of interest that were there the previous week which will no longer be there, but you'll have new dungeons, new location, new points of interest, and that means as well as being able to get different loot as well than you were able to get the previous week. Visually, I mean, you can see from the photos it looks absolutely stunning. So
I mean, my concern with what you said there is how big a download is this game going to be if the frame rate checker and the character thing is 16 gig?
Oh, it's well over 100 gig. Well over.
Oh, yeah, it's comfortably got to be a couple of 100 gig based on what you said there, Mass. But
this reminds me of Star Wars Galaxies. If I'm looking at all the screenshots. I'm looking. This feels just like
I don't think it. I think it was implied it's more of a survival game rather than an MMO. It's a survival game with MMO as opposed to an MMO
Okay.
with survival game. I don't. There won't. My understanding, although you'll be able to build a base, you're not going to have things like player cities. I don't believe, from my understanding. You obviously can be part of a guild, or you can just solo the game. So
Yeah, it looks incredible, and that's out on the 20th of May. So, if it's very good, I'm pretty certain we'll be playing it at the link up.
Possibly.
Who made it?
Who made it?
it's Funcom.
Funcom, yeah. Who are the people behind Aloft, which was actually a really nice game.
Interesting. All right, moving on to the last bit, which is actually now the last bit of the podcast. Matt's going to talk us through a game which we're potentially going to be playing at the link up, or has been suggested to us by you, the viewers. Talk us through the game, Matt.
So this one does come with the caveat that unfortunately it doesn't actually have a release date, so there's not actually a guarantee it'll be even available to play at this year's link. It's from Holy Griff Tower House, is the developer, and the publisher is Tiny Build. It's called Sand. Now, I know that we spoke earlier about another game called Guns of Icarus, and this looks like it has a connecting vein in the sense it's sort of a steampunk feel, and you are fighting or shooting with your sort of like mechanical robot, whereas in Guns of Icarus you're in the sky. In this case you're sort of on the ground, but there's definitely a strong connecting vein between the two. I'm not sure whether or not you'll have more than one person operating the sort of vehicle, so to speak, that you're sort of the giant walker that you're controlling, or if it's going to be sort of something that just one person sort of controls. You each have your sort of own sort of giant walker. But as I say, so Sand is an open world PvP VE extraction shooter where players operate giant walkers across the post-apocalyptic dunes of a fallen planet. Battle rival players, explore, loot, and extract valuable resources in a hostile, ever-changing world. So yeah, if that was something that does come in time for this year's link, then I'd definitely be very keen to sort of sell the.
You know what it reminds? Do you know what it reminds me of, Matt? What was that horrific game we played either last year or the year before, which was basically in a desert?
Walking Simulator.
I
Yeah.
forgive me. Yes. I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember it either. So.
Like, I just hope that game looks very similar in that it's obviously just based in a desert, and there's not much else apart from the things in where they are, and in between that there's nothing.
That game that you're referring to played like Nuclear Dawn. This is not a Nuclear Dawn style game where it sort of puts an RTS with a first person experience together, merges the two together. This is not it. I think,
but it does look like graphically it looks pretty good. I like the fact that you can almost build your big walker robot as it would be, and then add specific bits to it. But yeah, that's definitely a possibility. But
just on that, the 18th of February there was a open play test that started. So. And they've done a couple of other playtests before, so it's quite possible that this will be out before the link up.
Yeah, and the recommended system requirements is it requires a 64-bit processor and an operating system. So hopefully most people have got that. If you scroll right down to the bottom of their Steam pages, that's quite funny. But no, definitely potential there. Right, I think that pretty much wraps the podcast for today, gentlemen, unless there's anything else that we want to discuss or talk about. Obviously, if you're listening or watching, we would love it if you could drop a like and a subscribe over on YouTube. If you got any comments for us around what you've heard or what you've seen or you want to see on future podcast episodes, do let us know. If you've got any interest in us doing this live on a weekly basis, also let us know. We'll be putting that out on our other social media channels as well to see if there's any appetite for that, because that's something which we're definitely keen on exploring going forward. Anything else, guys, or are we good to wrap?
Again, the same shout out as any other week. If you have any ideas of any games that you would like to see us play at the Raw Link that we haven't mentioned or spoken about, or if there's any sort of game out there that you feel could be a diamond in the rough or a golden nugget that we just haven't spotted, please share it with us. We'd love to hear it, particularly if it's a first-person shooter as well.
100%.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening and watching. We really appreciate your time as always. Until next time, I've been Beef the Legend.
I've been Devastate.
I'm Ace.
I've been Masanivri Tofu.
Smooth as anything. Catch you later, peeps. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.